Today, I'm extremely excited to be joined by former Vice President of the Bank of America, now works at Tendermint, Alessio Treglia, and we'll be learning everything about Cosmos Cash. That's one of the blind spots I still have in the Cosmos ecosystem and in Cosmos at all. But before we get into all these things, also CBDCs, the digital euro, and how everything works. Alessio, how are you? How is everything going?
Hi there. I'm all good. Thank you. Everything's fine, and it's a pleasure to be here. So thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're crazy busy also during these days. Let's get started. Maybe with a little bit of your background. And I'm extremely interested. How did you find Tendermint? I think you wrote in a blog post that you met Jay and Ethan, the two co-founders of Cosmos. Can you talk a little bit about your background, what you did before joining Tendermint, and then also,
of course,
how you met Ethan and Jay and how you kind of like got convinced to work with them on Cosmos?
Right. Okay. Yes. Thanks for the question. So it was, my career started off around like 20 years ago, roughly, when I started to code professionally. Was a freelancer, did lots of different things when I was back living in Italy. Then I moved to the UK and I started to work in the startup space here. I've done lots of different startups. I've done some corporation as well. Hitachi Data Systems is one of them. Then I managed to get on with finance. So yes, I went to Bank of America Merrill Lynch. There is one thing that was always a constant for me, which was my passion and interest in free and libre open source software, which I started to code on Linux when I was around 14, 15. And then I fell in love with Ubuntu a long time ago. And I started to contribute. I think I started with documentation first. And then I started making packages. That's it. And then I became Debian developer, Ubuntu core developer, and open source is one of my one of the things that motivate me. Definitely motivate me to wake up every day and here at Tendermint and do the best. And one of my passions, the correlation between open source and blockchain. Like I said in the past, kind of quoting a friend of mine. I said once, he said once, and I found this extremely enlightening. He said, blockchain is open source plus. As open source and its long-standing problem of lack of funding, right? The problem of missing an actual maintainer, because open source is based on volunteering, and most brilliant projects used to live off donations. And then, people have families, interests, and maybe they don't have families, but they want to have fun, right? Or actually, they have family and they want to have fun. Anyway, they need money. they need funds.
Right.
And blockchain is actually the answer to that. So that's how philosophically I approached to it. And then back in 2016, I, thanks to a mutual friend of ours, a mutual friend for me, Jay and Ethan, Frank Mikulex, I think I can mention him. And she was introduced to Jay and Ethan, joined, I remember, all the Slack channels. And I always esteemed Ethan greatly, but my relationship with Jay got on very well, straight on, very early on. So he asked me if I wanted to join Tendermint when it was back in 2016, I think he still. And I said, no. And then I regretted it 1 year after. 1 year after that, and I said, oh shit. Look at the fundraiser. So then after 1 year, and then I go back to Jay and say, hey, maybe, right, let's do something different. Bank of America things are going very well, but I need something new, a new challenge.
But you were still at Bank of America at this time, or what? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I was the author of an application called the Clear Chain. Perhaps I think back in 2016 was the very first attempt. I don't even want to. I'm sorry. beg your pardon. I don't even want to label it as an application because it was an attempt to make an application with Tendermint core only. Back in the day, BCI was known as TMSP, Tendermint Socket Protocol. And then all the rest came along with time and devotion, I would say. So ABCI, Cosmos SDK, that was born to become the Ruby on Rails for blockchain, right? Etc. etc. So when I came on board back in 2018, I remember Jay told me I'd like to have your experience on board, also from a project management perspective, and also to finally get to the finish line and deliver the Cosmos app, because the guys were already quite late.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. And on December 16th, 2020, you then published a paper, or basically an article on Medium, announcing or sharing insights on Cosmos Cash. And you titled it "A Regulatory Compliant Finance Protocol Based on the Cosmos SDK." So I was, that was like my very early days when I heard about Cosmos, and my first initial kind of like excitement was the whole idea that we have this multi-chain future, right? And we focus on this internet of blockchains, and we need this layer 0 that connects all kind of chains, but eventually all kind of different technologies after all. So when I heard about Cosmos Cash and what you were doing, I was like, wow, that's something very exciting, something very different, that doesn't only tackle these whole DeFi and crypto native problems, but it's more for also more interesting for central banks, right, and CBDCs and those kind of things. So can you explain simply what Cosmos Cash actually is, how it works? Is it a own blockchain? Is it a developer framework? What is it, and what problems does it solve?
Right, that's a good question, and a complex one, and it's going to take a complex answer. I will start with some history first. Okay. Back in 2019, after the Cosmos Hub was launched, I took a trip to Malta because I was invited by Ameris Capital, our partners, with whom we worked on the Cosmos Cash research paper, and we're still working with them on the rest of the protocol. And of course, Ameris is an advisory firm, financial and legal advisory firm, so they take, they take care of the legal compliance whilst we do the tech. So I took a trip to Malta, and in Malta, those days I met a number of people that I would say they kind of changed. It was truly a turning point. So behind Cosmos Cash, there are a few people that met during those days. I think it was June or July, I can't recall exactly. It was an AI blockchain summit in Malta, 2019. So these people are in the beginning, there was the German Arnaud, who is one of the most prominent experts of Iman in Europe. Then Toti Cinque, Angelo Recca, the CEO of Bitsong, by the way. Myself. Then I took Jay to Malta. I said, you have to travel with me. You have to come with me to Malta so that we can meet these people, because together we thought about putting electronic money on chain. So of course I needed to explain what electronic money was, and I got obsessed. So Jay came with me to Malta, and we had a couple of meetings, actually a number of meetings, very interesting ones, and that was the beginning of Cosmos Cash. I can tell you something. The people that we had these meetings with, there was a whiteboard in that office. And in that whiteboard, Jay single-handedly designed Cosmos Cash. That whiteboard is still there.
Wow.
Preserved as if it was a relic. I'm not kidding.
We can tokenize it and sell it as an NFT.
Yes, it should be an NFT. That's actually made this joke. I mean, it shouldn't be a joke. We might make it one day.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll give you a fraction of it. Don't worry. So that's how things went. Yeah. That's how things went. So the very important point is, what is electronic money? Electronic money since its inception back, I think 30 years ago, roughly now, 25, 30 years ago, was a revolution per se. Right, picture this, the internet boom. So every single merchant wanted to be on the internet in order to maximize the throughput and have a bigger gains. They want to trade with everybody. So we needed a new payment methods, and new payment methods started to emerge. PayPal was born in those years. Right. Apropos of PayPal, when they come to Europe, before getting the banking status in Luxembourg, PayPal was an electronic money institution. So electronic money, from the regulatory perspective, is money, as in euro is euro, as long as it lives on a digital medium. Now, the definition of what is a digital medium, well, it can be quite broad. And that was the question asked by some of these prominent collaborators of mine. They went to some regulators and they asked them, okay, so a digital medium is a prepaid card, in your, of course, in your interpretation. Could be a prepaid card, it could be a bank's ledger, could be various things. As long as they, kind of, there is a socket plugged in, right? That's an electronic medium.
Yeah.
And when the money becomes electronic, then rules slightly change in order to facilitate transfers and wealth transfers. So fundamentally payments. And that was electronic money. So we started to work on this basis, and we thought this is powerful because for each digital euro that there is in a prepaid card, somebody has a 1 euro somewhere. There is 1-to-1. It couldn't be anything different than that. So for each euro, for each digital euro, let's call it electronic euro on a prepaid card, there is, virtually speaking, of course, but actually it is real, it is for good. There is 1 euro in the hands of the European Central Bank. Mm-hmm. Of course, the mechanisms, the practical mechanism back in the system, the electronic money, are quite complex. There are interbank settlement. There are lots of stuff behind it. But that's the concept. And we thought, okay, if we manage, these people asked the regulators this question, okay, what if we actually put electronic money on a blockchain? It took regulators quite some time, and then they get back and say, why not? Wow. Kind of surprised. They say, okay, cool. So we can try this. Yes, of course, you need to find a sandbox, a regulatory sandbox, an environment where you can toy with these tools and see where you go. And see as you go and see, you can take it from there then.
Yeah.
Of course, in the beginning, you need to enjoy some freedom. You need to entertain some freedom in order to break the rules. But when you break the rules, you don't want to go on the run, right? Yeah. You don't want to be on the go and chased by police and SEC or IRS or even worse, Italy's taxman. So that's bad. So the regulatory sandboxes, the regulatory sandbox environments are always useful. And we started to work on this. Together. Why is this powerful? Because however I understand the philosophical standpoint of many crypto enthusiasts, which is decentralization all over the place. Yes, absolutely. But decentralization is not a means by which we go anywhere. We don't go anywhere with that. Decentralization is an objective. Mm-hmm. In order to get there, we need to do things, one after another. And I know very well, many people, many, even cosmonauts will disagree with me. Fine, I'm okay with that. But you need to bring together all the stakeholders, including central banks and regulators, for one simple reason. because they will not die out of a sudden, or because we wish them to die. So these players, however ancient, obsolete, or evil in quotes they could be, they are here to stay, and we need to deal with them.
Yeah.
So that's fundamentally my standpoint.
Okay, so there's a lot of things that you said there, and I would agree that we're in a transition to a decentralized peer-to-peer internet, the Web3 era, right? There's so many things that need to be decentralized, and many of these things are not, I think, emphasized enough, right? For example, if you look at most Bitcoin trading, where does it take place? It takes place on centralized exchanges, right? Which is basically crypto banks, which defeats the entire purpose of Bitcoin in the first place, right? And then you see a lot of big thought leaders in the Bitcoin space promoting those platforms, right? Like, bro, I don't know if that's, the right goal that we're swimming towards to. And I think this idea to have a fully decentralized world where every central bank adopts Bitcoin as the global reserve currency and will only have peer-to-peer cash, I think that's a bit fictional, and I was actually really surprised to see El Salvador adopting Bitcoin. I love it, but I think China, the US, or Europe most likely will not do that, and we have actually proof for that because China is already leaps ahead with their CBDC, and it's going to be the legal tender, right? So there's going to be a lot of other concepts there. And by the way, the Chinese digital yuan already has 10 million active users within a year or something. So these guys are like, they have much more power, much more control. And like you say, they most likely won't magically vanish, right? And still a lot of people trust into those systems and trust in the central banks, which basically brings me to the question, and you can also then comment on what I just said, to the question, because a lot of people ask that, like, what is actually the difference between CBDCs and crypto? Right? What is the difference? Because it's both digital money, digital currencies, but how do they differentiate?
Good question. Now, firstly, actually, I think I didn't answer your question fully before. The actual objective of Cosmos Cash.
Yeah.
Let me finish this and then I jump onto the other question. Why are we doing Cosmos Cash? Very simple. I can take my mom as an example. 68-year-old woman. Very energetic, kind of Germanish, and she's she can use a debit card to pay. She can use cash, but I wonder, I mean, how many centuries gonna take her to use this? Okay, this is ridiculous, right? So the point is, we are doing this. All the crypto movement was born as a revolution against the broken system, for the people, by the people. But that was what we were told. Right. Where are the people using our technology here? And I'm not talking about the traders. Of course, yes, the traders using it. But I want people to go and do grocery shopping, crypto. Not just with Cosmos Cash, but with any crypto. Fine. But I need to bring this technology into the hands of the people.
Yeah.
That's the motivation. So does that answer your question finally?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So what is a CBDC? What is the difference between? Firstly, CBDC is broadly defined because even for each jurisdiction there is a different either incarnation or definition of CBDC. CBDC means one thing: central bank digital currency, and therefore that means something issued by, yes, controlled by, but issued by the central bank. Why the central bank? That's again when we have to face reality. Right? We cannot hope that the economic policy, the monetary policy, will be left in the hands of a bunch of programmers. So central banks are there to stay. They came last, of course, to the crypto party. They try to understand and they try to modernize themselves somehow. Now, how? Well, we can talk forever. And I'm quite sure I bet my ranch on my next statement, which is the very first CBDC we will see out in the market will be horrible. Nobody will use them. If you think about, and I'll tell you why. If you think about, you know what is the country in Europe, in European Union, where there is the most cash in the hands of the ordinary people, the general public? What is the country that relies the most on cash?
Probably, I don't know, Greece?
Germany.
Germany?
After Switzerland, Germany.
Maybe Germany, yeah. We love cash. We love to hard cash
out.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to go now because of the pandemic. Due to the pandemic, I don't go that often to Berlin, a place that I love very much.
Yeah, Berlin is nice. But I was thinking
Berlin, everybody uses cash, right?
Yeah, I was thinking Greece or maybe Italy, where they have issues, or Greece had this big crisis, right? That people learned from that and withdrew money. But if not, then well, that's
that's not the point.
That's not the point. Yeah,
that's not the point. There are other points, but anyway, let's forget that. That is what I think is the motivation that drives people to use cash. Actually, I know quite for certain that's beside the point. So anyway, there is one fact, which is people love cash, don't they?
Yeah.
So that's why, in my opinion, CBDC will not be successful experiments, at the very least in Europe. But I do believe that in Europe, a CBDC will have a very particular form. It will be issued, so the digital euro will be issued by the European Central Bank. But again, I bet my ranch, all my horses, that it will not be issued into the hands of the general public.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you tell me why.
I mean, they definitely don't want to give away control, right?
Think about what is the job that the banks do for the central bank. Like loans, they do mortgages, they intermediate the Europeans, they intermediate the central bank.
Right.
And the central bank needs banks, however large or small they could be. Otherwise, a central bank, if the central bank is going to issue euro into your hands and my hands directly, the central bank is going retail. And the central bank cannot go retail.
Mm-hmm.
They can't, for very simple reasons that I mentioned before, some of them. But can you picture a central bank doing KYC, KYB, KYT, etc. to each and every single citizen of a country? That makes no sense whatsoever. So the central bank will issue the CBDC. The CBDC will very likely, I don't know, maybe in my opinion, might replace Target 2 in Europe. I don't know exactly what the CBDC, so the digital euro, is going to look like.
Well, let me just summarize your point. So you're saying that central banks most likely are not going to issue a retail CBDC. So there's these two concepts of CBDCs, right? You have a retail CBDC in which a central bank replaces commercial banks and is a direct peer connected to the citizen, basically. And I think actually the Bahamas, they have launched a retail CBDC. So actually, for the end user, for the citizens, you download an app from the App Store, which is from the central bank, right? And then you can also get financial products there. And then on the other hand, you have wholesale CBDCs, which basically just change the nature of that currency onto the blockchain, for example, or other technologies. I don't think the Chinese are actually using the blockchain, but you still have commercial banks that take care of the financial services and those kind of things. And you're saying we'll most likely see wholesale CBDCs predominantly by major jurisdictions. Is that right?
Well, in major jurisdiction, Europe, there is only one central one, which is the European Central Bank, ECB. And yes, in my opinion, the digital euro will not be issued right away into the hands of the general public.
Interesting.
Technically speaking, although the euro that you will have in your hands, the digital euro you will have in your hands, will be called the digital euro, right? But it will be actually the bank issuing you euro backed by the CBDC. So they will create an underline. See what I mean?
Yes.
Multi-layer architecture, which is normal. Of course, Bahamas population is, I think, not even 500,000, maybe.
Yeah, 400 something thousand.
Not even 500,000, not even 1 million, right? So yes, of course, central bank. That's a different scenario, but you know, that's not possible. Plus, the problem that people don't like, that people are really in love with cash,
right?
And yet there is an effort going on for ages now about digitalizing the society, which is a great effort, which also requires money to be digital. But when money becomes digital, then what happens to tax evasion, tax avoidance, and money laundering?
Right.
You open a Pandora box.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges also for central banks and for regulators to build this new framework from scratch, right? And I think also in your article you mentioned the MiCA framework that is being developed. I think it's not fully live yet. But what would be? I mean, you already mentioned AML, KYC, obviously. But what is currently the main challenge for central banks? I mean, well, let's stick to the ECB because that's where you're mostly focused on. What are they currently? What do they see as the main challenge right now from a regulatory perspective to launch a CBDC or to handle crypto and DLTs and all of that?
I think the challenges were many in the beginning. Challenges are the banking system moves very slowly, very, very slowly.
Right.
And especially in Europe, I don't know if you ever heard of EIDAS, which is not a regulation, but a European directive, actually a number of European directives, which gives you the idea, actually really establishes the foundations of a digital identity in Europe. Self-sovereign identities, digital identity, e-invoicing, e-receipt, e-shipping, e-delivery. That's EIDAS. EIDAS faced an immense pushback from member states because nobody wanted to modernize the architecture of their country. But if you think about the performance of any public service you might require, right? And you have a digital identity with you, and not only that's the good of digitalizing society, digitalizing money. That not necessarily the control is within the hands of the central banks. Quite the opposite. When you have a self-sovereign digital identity in your hands and verifiable credentials that we are developing in order to create an AML compliant protocol, Cosmos Cash, in fact. Well, Facebook, right? You got your identity and you give your data to Facebook. You become a Facebook product yourself.
Right.
Thing is, I don't give you your data. I give you verifiable proof. I give you a verifiable credential to access and to verify, to validate certain information. But my data stays with me. And anytime I can withdraw from your hands the permission to access it. Because what is an identity is fundamentally just a shell where you put inside all the verifiable credentials and you allow people to access. You know, the problem of, in the UK, there is one rule, a challenge 25. When I go buy alcohol, I need to look as old as 25 at the very least. Otherwise, the cashier will ask me for my ID, passport or national ID or whatever. That's how it works. Although I just need to be older than 18 to drink and buy alcohol in this country. And yet, challenge 25. So if and it happens, as you can imagine, so often to me, that people, oh, you are 17, 16. Kidding, of course. And they say, okay, I need to see your passport. I need to see your ID to verify you can buy alcohol. But the moment that I take my passport out and I show it to the cashier at the till, I'm not just giving them a proof of my age. I'm giving them my full name, my date of birth, my place of birth, the color of my eyes. Right. I'm giving them a number of information. They don't necessarily need to verify that I'm older than 18.
Right.
So that's what we are working on. And that is the benefit of the CBDC, but the CBDC alone doesn't have much if they don't bring into the picture also EIDAS as a regulation and not as a set of directives.
Okay, and on on May 5th this year, you posted a tweet, and it's also pinned on your profile, saying that today marks the 200th anniversary of the death of Napoleon, Europe's last great emperor. Coincidentally, today, Tendermint team, together with Amagis Capital, will meet the ECB to discuss the digital euro and Cosmos Cash. Big day for the Cosmos ecosystem. Can you elaborate on that meeting, what you were pitching them, and how this what all this was about?
No, okay, yes, thank you though for the question. No, we didn't pitch them. You don't pitch the European Central Bank. You actually go there with your cards, quite well covered. You don't really want to show your cards fully because the risk is that they grab your best ideas. Oh, thank you so much very much. Let me show you out. So no, but it was a truly a pleasure. We were called in to share with the European Central Bank the kind of there was also one of the member of the board of directors attending the meeting there. What we thought the digital euro should look like. Mm-hmm. So we gave them our vision, which is, I think, quite well explained in the pitch decks I shared in Twitter. Mm-hmm. There is somewhere there. So that's it. And of course, we also publicized a bit Cosmos Cash, because Cosmos Cash wants to build on top of a CBDC. Cosmos Cash is an electronic money token, which is a class of virtual assets, and would be pegged and backed by the euro. That's what we're working on. Of course, it can actually be backed by other currencies and assets, to be fair.
And how was their response to that, Diane? What is the current stage? Like, are you now entering a kind of like research collaboration with them, or what's the current stage, and what were their response?
No. I think they firstly they asked many questions. Of course, the notorious, very well anticipated, what's Tendermint core TPS? Kind of jaw dropping. And I had to explain, well, it actually depends on how you configure the nodes and how you configure the network. But it could be very high or could be very low. It depends on what you need. So I explained what was the absolute finality, the economic finality, what we done on Cosmos Hub as well. Also the governance on chain. Governance is an important keyword in everything we do.
Yeah.
And they were kind of, the conversation went on. I think he actually ran a bit over as well. So it was quite an exciting appointment. They also asked us, I think I can share this, if we ever worked on a sort of physical form of a digital euro. And I needed to ask you to repeat the question because I couldn't really get that. But you see, you can understand from the questions they were asking along which lines they were thinking.
Right.
So I think they thought a lot after 24 months, right? I guess. So they starting off now. But of course, it will be super centralized. There will be Europe, and that's fine.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I wrote a paper about that I finished it in March, I think. And up until that point, they only had this report. I think it was actually the second report they posted from October last year. Was it this one or was it the March one? Anyway, one of the reports, and they also mentioned Cosmos in that report as kind of like the interoperability layer. Was that part of like your talks back and forth, or did they just do their own research and stumbled upon Cosmos and said like, this is interesting? And what do you think, how do they perceive Cosmos as a project, maybe beyond just Cosmos Cash?
They came very well prepared. So they know us. They know us indeed. They know the project. There were kind words for the projects and for us as well. Of course, David Agriso and I were wearing ties and proudly. because of our past.
We were hiding your Dogecoin T-shirts. You were wearing underneath.
But I was actually thinking to make one of my notorious jokes, but I said, okay,
yeah, you got to be careful.
No, it was fun. So I think we were highly esteemed. The whole project was highly esteemed, and more importantly, Cosmos Cash brings benefit to the ecosystem, because when you hear me or some of my collaborators saying things like, "I want the traders to use Cosmos Cash to enter crypto," I want the institutional investors, and they have euros, they have pounds. Well, few of them. Pounds is now kind of insignificant in global stage. Dollars. So these people have to abide by the rules. They have to comply. And they have big money. Do we want to work with them? Right? Or we want to leave them behind, and
Yeah.
Cosmos Cash does benefit the Cosmos ecosystem, not only from an adoption point of view, but also from a reputational point of view.
Agree. Yeah, definitely. And we've seen this today. I think there's also in South Korea, they're also doing progress with their CBDC. And I think today, actually, they published that Clayton is chosen as the kind of like first public testing program or pilot program with the Bank of Korea. But I think also Cosmos was in the race for the Korean CBDC, or they still are, in collaboration with Hana Bank and Postech. There's also one, I made a video about this, as was pretty interesting. But yeah, I think definitely from a reputational point of view, it helps. It gives more credibility, right? Just like Bitcoin gained a lot of credibility when Elon started to accept it and bought it with Tesla, right? Same thing. Even though it's not really like, in the original sense of Bitcoin, peer-to-peer cash, and we're going to save the third world now. And then everybody only gets excited when Tesla bought. But let's move on a little bit. Before I have another question regarding Emeris and Gravity DEX, because there's a lot of questions and the community is really, really excited about this. But let's wrap up the Cosmos Cash topic. So what would be use cases? You already mentioned, obviously, we talked a lot about CBDCs and the identity thing. What are some use cases of Cosmos Cash? In very simple, straightforward words. You don't need to go really deep into that. And are you also in talks with other central banks or other countries, other institutions?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes, we are. Cosmos Cash is an attempt to democratize the payment industry. My idea, my vision is to remove SEPA and replace it with the Cosmos technology. I don't want SEPA. I don't want SWIFT. Oh my God, SWIFT. SWIFT should have died a long time ago.
Yeah.
Long time ago. I've witnessed with my eyes scams in SWIFT. Right. So that's what Cosmos Cash, in my opinion, is set to become. At least that is the ambitious objective. But we want to create a marketplace where any electronic money issuer can join the partnership of the Cosmos Cash issuers and do business, and allow people to transfer crypto, to transfer euro, dollars, and crypto assets, virtual assets of any sort, with the BFT, with the Tendermint BFT protocol, light speed, so in 3 seconds, 4 second settlements instead of 2 days.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think so far only Ripple has been kind of like the Swift killer in forms of narrative, at least. So far, they haven't really achieved.
Yes, narrative-wise only.
Yeah, they haven't achieved too much yet. But anyway, I think it's always great to have competition. But you were just nodding when I said you have other partners. So what are some other partners that you have that you can talk about or give us hints?
I can't really share names and.
But other central banks, or is it institutions?
No. This is not for central banks. This is not. Cosmos Cash is not the CBDC. Cosmos Cash is the implementation of the electronic money token as defined by the upcoming MiCA regulations. That's it. That's simple as that. Well, simply said, but be more difficult to implement, to be honest. That's what it is. I must tell you something, that the partners we're working with are small partners. They are not the big institutions. Electronic money was originally thought to open up the banking sector and to not to be only the reign and the realm of the usual 10, 12, 14 huge players in the world, but also to allow small institutions to join the game and do business. That's what we are doing. So we are partnering with electronic money institutions, so small banks, the outsiders.
Yeah, and you already said that obviously from a reputation and credibility standpoint, it benefits the entire Cosmos ecosystem. But what about Atom as the native token or coin on Cosmos? Does it have any impact, effect, or benefit for Atom or Atom holders, or any sort of that, or not at all?
I can't make promises, but of course we the network and the we try to make a public network, a proof of stake. Again, I can't make promises.
Right.
This is still a research project. Let's not forget now. But we are squeezing our brains, and we want the Atom holders to be part and to be our very first users. So we'll find a way to get this done.
Okay, very interesting. I think because we will get into the community questions in a second, and there's also some more questions regarding that topic. But before we do that, I wanted to ask you about Emeris and Gravity DEX. Is there any updates you can share? Emeris is supposed to launch in July. Is that still the case, or what's going on there?
Right, Gravity DEX is my area. Emeris isn't. But Gravity DEX, we are working on a few improvements. The X, B Harvest 4, sorry if I call them this way, but they're part of Tendermint now. So Young, Dongsam, Anjun, and all the rest of the team, JB, and all the rest, they Tendermint. Young especially has the title of Master of DeFi at Tendermint, and we're working together to improve the DEX, to add features, and that's what I tend to take care of very closely. When it comes to Emeris, ETA, like we announced before, is July. I can tell you something, that Gauthier and the team, they're working very hard. They're working around the clock every single day, weekends included. So Emeris is going to be out as soon as possible and will be delivered with the highest standards.
Awesome. And I think we can jump into the community questions, and then also relate that back to the entire discussion we had. I think we covered a lot of things, from generally covering CBDCs, what they are, how they differentiate, all the way to crypto, Cosmos Cash, now Emeris and Gravity DEX. Let's get into community questions. I just picked 5 questions real quick. We can maybe answer that within the next 10 minutes, because the attention span of the crypto community is super low these days, even in bear markets.
Wow.
So question number 1 from my good friend, actually, Liam Connor, also fellow YouTuber and covers Cosmos a lot. Really, really great guy. Make sure that you subscribe to his channel as well. He asked, how would a digital euro or Cosmos Cash integrate with and interconnect with other parts of the ecosystem? Will it be utilized in Cosmos DeFi apps and as fiat on-ramp, etc.?
Of course. It comes with batteries included and IBC supported.
So it will also be part of, like in Gravity DEX and Emeris, is that all going to be eventually connected to each other?
That is definitely, we are designing the protocol with that in mind, of course, yes.
Okay.
Of course, there might be, Cosmos Cash is a protocol, a regulated protocol. So very likely not everything will be possible unless you do a KYC. But once you've done that, yes, you can use it with anything.
All right. Second question from Jacob Gadikian. He was asking, if it were adopted, this would mean that real euros become an IBC-transferrable stablecoin?
Hi, Jacob. How are you? So it's actually a very good question. Very, very good question. Cosmos Cash is not the digital euro. But yes, will be backed by the euro 1-to-1 because of how electronic money is designed. It's a very long story. So I'm very happy to explain technicalities, but this is not the right place in my opinion. We have very little time. Yeah, it might be the euro in the hands of the people because, look, this is a prepaid card. This is electronic money. That's a medium where Cosmos Cash might live.
And I think in China, they're also taking a similar approach. Well, maybe a different approach, but with the same goal, because they have at the same time what is it called, the blockchain. Blockchain Association.
Services Network, yes.
Blockchain Service Network, yeah, thank you. So that is also, and I think they actually work together with telecommunications companies to build the actual also physical infrastructure for the blockchain economy, right? So this is already in the works since 2 years or something like that now, which is crazy, right? And I think a lot of people are also not really aware what China is doing right now and how advanced and how far they are already out. But this is also something, that they keep in mind, maybe to even roll out a digital yuan on an interoperable ledger. I think they collaborate even with IrisNet, which is also built on the Cosmos SDK, and implemented IBC as one of the first ones. I think actually the first protocol also to make the first IBC transaction between the Cosmos Hub and Iris. So there's a lot of things. And I think interoperability is, after we fix the scaling issue, and by we, I mean Ethereum, Bitcoin, all these big chains, I think we need to tackle the interoperability problem. So that's a great question. And I think central banks definitely have to have this on their radar, right? That's why they also covered Cosmos and also Polkadot and other interoperability layers. I think, what was it, Fusion or something like that in their reports. But yeah, next question is actually 2 parts of the question. So that's question 3 and 4 together. From Equis and also from Nirav Patel. Equis asks, what does the process look like for a core developer team to sell their belief to the ECB that Cosmos is the ultimate protocol to build the digital euro on? How do you win such a massive tender? And then the second part of the question, can a CBDC be built on a layer 1 platform, or does it need to have its own blockchain? What are the trade-offs?
I start answering the latter.
Okay.
So CBDC can be built on a decentralized platform.
If it has to have its own blockchain, or if it can also be a layer 1.
It's not going to be a decentralized effort. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. It's going to replace, in my very humble opinion, interbank settlement. And it's going to be the way the European central bank, at least in Europe, I can't really comment on the US because Euro is my home. But like I said before, it's not going to be decentralized. It's not going to be. Perhaps they actually might use some of our components. They might use Tendermint, maybe. They might use Cosmos SDK to build something. I don't know. I don't know that for sure. Sure, I know the Cosmos SDK is so simple that they might not even ask us for advice to build something. No, you can't really sell these things to the European Central Bank. Hey, we build an application for you. It doesn't work like that. And how can you win a tender? Well, it takes time. You need to be a lobbyist, which is a pleasant and unpleasant work at the same time. Been there, done that. There is one word advice I can give to people who want to apply to tenders in Europe. In Europe, if you go alone, you go nowhere. Form a coalition, try to bring partners when you apply to tenders. It's a very long procedure. Check always the European Commission website. Try to always stay up to date. That's it. But always go with partners, because you will never win a whole tender on your own. That's not the way it works. You cannot have all the expertise and all the skills required to get, say, 5 million, 6 million euros for a tender. No, you're gonna get a chunk of it. You're gonna do the work, and so they will, and so will do your partners.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing is always like the network that you have with these people.
Correct.
Because when I think about Korea, and I've done a lot of research there, but also China, but in Korea, Clayton, for example, I think they started off as a simple Ethereum fork and then just evolved the platform, evolved the technology. But obviously they have KakaoTalk backing that project. And KakaoTalk is the largest social media app there. So they already have the trust. They already have the network on a very high level probably, which is also why potentially had advantages in being chosen now as the first pilot partner for the Bank of Korea. But yeah, let's move on to the very last question, and then we can wrap it up for now. Terran Crypto is asking, how, and that's a general question, I think, how are CBDCs good for crypto? In a market that values decentralization and financial freedom, how do banks having their own cryptocurrency, they have complete control over, positive for the space?
I don't think CBDC is going to be good or bad for crypto. CBDC is a reality. CBDC are going to be the adaptation, the response. Let's say the response, but it's not going to be pushback. It's going to be an exercise and taking example from what we've done over the last, I think, 10 years in this space and say, okay, these guys are doing something nice. Yeah, some of them kind of nut jobs, fine, but the tech is good, right? Yeah. Actually, the crypto space and blockchain had the merit to have educated lots of people to cryptography. Right? And I think it's not going to contribute directly anything, but it's going to educate people firstly in the beginning. And then I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I'm not even sure about what's going to happen tomorrow. So hopefully plenty of good things.
Yeah, and I like that CBDCs are simply a reality, right? And as much as we wish that everybody would just accept Atom as the global reserve currency and cash system, it's not going to happen, right? So it's just as it is. We also see now institutions and big companies, tech companies like Facebook, even releasing their own coins and own currencies, right? Which is also not in the ideology of peer-to-peer cash, right? Because then you still have Facebook as a counterparty.
Rules are needed.
Yeah.
Rules are needed. Understand when somebody's young and they want to be a rebel, they want to all the time. Yes, I understand that. But rules are needed because rules by regulators are established in order to protect consumers.
Right. That's a good point. And I think sometimes governments aren't as evil as everybody thinks. Sure, the system has flaws. It's not good. But for example, when I lived in China for 1.5 years, I've seen so many scams left and right, projects taking advantage of the decentralized nature of crypto, launching scam coins, even today, right? Plus token or OneCoin or you name it, all these multi-billion-dollar scam projects that get so many millions of people wrecked around the world and collect billions of dollars. So I think rules are needed. A regulatory framework is definitely needed. And it's also going to clash together with that ideology that we have in crypto. Even though I think, to be very, very honest, I don't really think the majority of the people in crypto actually believe in decentralization. They say that, but they don't really believe it. And you can see that because
please don't let's not open this kind of world.
Yeah, we can cover this maybe another time. But most people, simply trust middlemen, Coinbase, Kraken, other big exchanges, or BlockFi, right? Or you name it. But anyway, man, that was a really, really cool conversation. I think we'll learn a lot today. And everybody who is now interested, definitely follow Alessio on Twitter and also your Medium. Looking forward to your upcoming releases and articles. Thanks so much for the time. And yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Thank you. Cosmos Cash is in DevNet. If anyone wants to try it out, poke me.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Thanks. Have a good one.